Haas has lost a lot with the sacking of Steiner, no doubt about that, but as the team is looking forward to try to sweeten the blow as much as they can, the new team principal, Ayao Komatsu, has sent out a bombshell recently saying basically what was on everyone's mind all along, which is that Haas hasn't been run properly and that major changes are needed. While he is right, the question is whether or not such a thing was necessary to state publicly, because it surely won't help their case. So what are these problems that need addressing, and is Komatsu the right man for the job? The contrast between new Haas Formula One team principal Ayao Komatsu and predecessor Guenther Steiner is stark. While Komatsu has a little profile in F1 thanks to a distinguished 2 decades in engineering roles with Bar, Honda, Renault Lotus and Haas, he's nothing like the larger-than-life Steiner and has set out his stall to bring a different kind of leadership to a team he's been with since it started. Komatsu is a softly spoken individual who's mostly known for insightful interviews on engineering and collaborations with drivers, and is determined to chart his own course as team principal. His rationale is rooted in the belief that it's crucial not to reveal too many details about his vision for the team before sharing them with his colleagues. And look, this doesn't mean he withholds insights into his approach and the team's priorities after the sudden leadership change. Komatsu almost portrays himself as an unintentional team principal, caught off guard by the job offer, yet exuding an air of readiness for the role, perhaps harboring aspirations beyond what he openly acknowledges. And that is a great thing for the team moving forward, because Haas needs a team principal that knows what his goal is and has a realistic vision for the future. We cannot expect Komatsu to be another Steiner, and even he stated that himself. They are two very different characters, and even Gene knows that. Otherwise, he would have looked for a different guy to take on the role. Other than admitting that he, too, has been known to swear way too much, an allusion to the caricature of Steiner, there are hints of there being a clear difference between how Komatsu wants to do things and how Steiner did them. While he stresses their friendship, Komatsu also admits that he hasn't spoken to Steiner since the decision, and that there's no formal transition period or handover. His primary objective is to foster unity within the team, a crucial undertaking given its dispersion across 3 locations: Banbury, the Maranello Design Hub, and the Kannapolis headquarters in North Carolina. The underlying implication here is that Steiner, despite being based in the US and maintaining a European residence, may not have dedicated sufficient time to the European bases where the majority of design, engineering and operational tasks are carried out, potentially leaving some desiring a more significant presence in those locations. This is what he specifically emphasized that is one of the main weak points of the team. While their official HQ is in the US, Haas primarily operates out of 2 bases, one in the UK and the other in Italy. But Komatsu has admitted that is not the ideal way to run a team, although also conceded it was not the only issue Haas needed to solve. He said that if you gave him a blank piece of paper, 2 HQs separated by hundreds of miles would not be his first choice. Of course, if you're setting up on a blank sheet of paper, you're not going to set up an F1 team with 2 separate factories in the UK and Italy. But that's how we started, and that was very beneficial in 16, 17, 18 to get off the ground, Komatsu said. Then, of course, the landscape changes. Certain regulation changes happen, so the team needs to develop. Those kind of things we need to assess continuously. But again, if you ask me, is that ideal, having a UK office here and an Italy office there? No. But is that a main constraint? No. Can we do better? Absolutely yes. So that's what I'm focused on. If we get the maximum out of how we set up, and then if that becomes right, we therefore cannot do anything better with the way we set up, and then we can talk about that. That's my strategy, if you like. But of course, you've got to have that not in the back of your mind, but as a strategy, medium, long term, where you might want to go. But that's not my focus at the minute. The reason for the Haas structure being like that is the link they have with Ferrari, as their Italian base is next door to Ferrari's. But as the team looks to improve, the difficulties in that separation is clear. Of all the other competitors, it is only Alpine and AlphaTauri whose operation is split across two countries. Ideally, if you have no constraints, of course, you put everybody in the same factory, right? Komatsu continued. Same with designers. When certain things break, it's so important for designers to have that part in their hand. So yeah, ideally that's the case, but that's not how we're set up, and that's not going to change in the foreseeable future. So again, like I said, I try to maximize what we've got to start off with, get to the absolute limitation, and then when we get to the stage where we really cannot do anything more with this setup, and then this is the limit, then maybe there's a discussion point. But at this minute, what I found is that depending on people's capability, it depends how you know each other. If you know somebody personally well, and then this person is, let's say, technically on a certain level, I found that actually it's fine mostly to work remotely. But when you don't have that personal relationship, when you don't know the person very well, or this person's skill set or level is just below the certain level required, then it can go from absolutely fine to absolutely not fine. It's a bit case by case, so you cannot say a blanket statement that the separate office doesn't work. In certain cases I've seen, even with the current organization, certain areas where it works really well with no issues whatsoever, but in certain areas it's a big issue, so case by case. So how can Haas improve if the main problem is the divided team bases? Repeatedly, Komatsu stressed that communication is the key to Haas making improvements, because F1 teams today are mini industrial complexes made up of hundreds of people and dozens of departments. This is a common challenge, but it's heightened for Haas given its geographical setup. Komatsu is firmly embedded in the UK side of the operation, having worked as the senior trackside engineer since joining the team ahead of its 2016 debut. Haas deserved the benefit of the doubt regarding their poor performances right through 2019 to 2022, but last year was where you'd really question if their structure is suitable for a new era in F1, given they once again struggled with the same darn problem: extreme degradation of the tyres. But again, I can't help but go back to the old saying, you can make a fast car more reliable, but you can't make a slow car fast. I believe that if they can crack the extreme tyre degradation, they could once again rattle the cages of teams that have far more financial support and cutting-edge technology. We keep being told that the game is moving on and they're quickly getting left behind, but let's be honest, if Haas continues to struggle, it's nearly certain that were Gene Haas to go to Ferrari and ask for more support and give them more in return, Ferrari would be delighted to turn Haas into the equivalent of the Red Bull AlphaTauri sister team setup. People think and even hope that he'll give up and sell up, but I think it could be more predictable for him to cost up to Ferrari further to cushion the team. I like Komatsu's attitude, but is it going to be enough to deliver results for the team is the question. But then again, Komatsu is a similar appointment to what McLaren did with Andrea Stella, which is a more technical guy leading the team forward and will focus on improving the car and not finish 10th. Even Komatsu confirmed that he's been given an integral target by Gene on where they should aim to finish, but even though he stated the car is currently not good enough, there's still time to improve before the start of the new season. The problem with Haas is their resources. The only team they could compete with next season is Sauber or Stake, but at least Sauber has more sponsors and Haas lacks that at the moment, so the future is not looking good for the American team. Whether or not Komatsu can turn it around, we can only hope, because we're all up for the grid getting more competitive, especially the teams at the bottom, and Haas can definitely contribute to that. What do you think? Can Haas move from 10th place next year with Komatsu at the lead, or will they need more than a miracle? Let us know in the comments below, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you very soon in the next video.